And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we are looking at NFL draft prospect Emeka Egbuka, and we're talking about what that would look like if the Washington Commanders were to draft this talented wide receiver from Ohio State University. And so, before we go ahead and jump into that, I first wanted to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel for a lot of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure you go ahead, you hit that subscribe button, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family here, as we got a lot of good stuff to come. And so let's go ahead and jump into the content for today, and just looking at a Washington Commanders NFL draft prospect here in Emeka Egbuka. And so if you do not know him, this is a very talented wide receiver for Ohio State University. He played there from 2021 all the way up to 2024. And I think that he just got progressively better, because within the first season, 9 receptions, 191 yards, but he did make an immediate impact, I think, in the return game, which we're going to talk about that in a moment. But, man, his sophomore year, that was the year where he really took off. He had 74 receptions. He had 1,151 yards in that season. 15.6 was his average in 10 touchdowns. And so that was great production. And then in 2023, look, he went through a little bit of an ankle injury, had to get some surgery there, only 41 receptions, but still had 515 yards and 4 touchdowns. And so despite being injured in 2023, I think he still had some pretty good production. And then he came right back here in 2024, 81 receptions. And so that's the most that he had. And then he had a 1,000-yard campaign, just slightly over 1,000 yards by 11 yards. And then he had a 12.5 average and, again, 10 touchdowns. And so, look, this is what you love about him, is just it's been consistency with him. And so immediately, I think when it comes down to just liking him as a prospect, I think that the first thing for me is just he might be the most technically sound wide receiver. And when I say that, when he runs his routes, it's a real pro feel to what he's doing out there. I think that he is terrific as far as getting out and really setting up the route. I think that he does a great job as far as getting into some top end speed quickly. I think that he gets out of his breaks very well. And I also think that he's very subtle with his fakes. Like, it could be like a little hesitation of the shoulder or something like that, but he's able to really fool the defensive back or whatever and get to the spot. And he's available and open for your quarterback. And so I like that. That's point number one. Number two, I love his ability to find the football. And so I think a lot of times, you'll see some wide receivers, they let the ball kind of get to their body. He's a guy that will attack the football before it even gets close. I think that I like that as far as his catch radius and his ability to be aggressive in the catch. And then, another thing that I think really kind of ties into that is that he has a bit of a baseball background. And so I was looking here on NFL.com and some of the other draft profiles, and they talk about the fact that he was a former infielder. And so I do think that with that baseball background, he has the ability to track the football through traffic. And so that is one of the things that you love, because obviously you've got to concentrate, especially if the ball is coming down in baseball, the sun in your face and stuff like that. And so you can imagine football, you're going to have that same type of element, out there. And then also, too, you got defensive backs and stuff like that, waving and all that stuff. And so you got to track the football. And so I think several times on tape, he does a great job as far as that. And so that is point number two. And then point number three, I think what I love about him is he understands where to be in the zones. I think that there were several times on tape you see that he has the ability to kind of sneak into just the pockets and the windows and just make himself available for a quarterback. And so I would have to think Jaden Daniels on Sunday with Emeka Egbuka just being able to sit in zones, like, man, I think that that would be a nightmare for a defense. And then you pair that in with the fourth point, and that is he has home run ability. I think that if you get him the football in space and he's able to make the initial defender miss, I think he can make a house call. And I also think that he's elusive enough to where he's going to create, I think, a lot of yards after catch. And immediately what I'm thinking of is maybe a player just like Chris Olave. I think that there's a lot of similarities there. And I love the fact that, too, and last point here, the route tree. I think that the route tree is completely open for him. I don't think that there's a route that you wonder, well, man, can he run it? Can he be efficient at it? I think that that's not going to be an issue. I think that he's going to be a player, honestly, that you can plug in right now. And I would love to have him. I think he might be one of the most NFL ready wide receivers out of this draft. And so, with that being said, look, even if he is not a player that is ready for a day one start, I think he immediately could impact our football team because he's terrific at the return game. And so you could put him as a punt returner. You can also put him in the kick return game. And I just think that he could still make an impact that way, even if he is not a starting wide receiver. And I guess at the combine or in the 40 time, he ran a 4.47. So that is excellent speed. And so, look, I would love the possibility of getting him. The reason that we're looking at him today, just to let you know, is because NFL.com just did another mock draft. This was Charles Davis of NFL Network. It's a 2.0 mock. And he has the Washington Commanders taking Emeka Egbuka. And I must say that I love it. Look, his track ability, basically to run with the football, and just his ability to catch this thing and sit into just zones and pockets in the defense, man, I think he would be tremendous. Now, some of the weaknesses that they say is that he's got to get a bit better as a pass blocker. And then also, too, they talk about just his release point and getting off the line, that he needs to get a bit more crafty there. And just wondering how he's going to respond once he gets to some bigger corners, some faster corners and things like that. But look, I think he's going to be just fine at 6'1", 205. In fact, I like the fact that he's played with some NFL players already. CJ Stroud was his quarterback at one point here. And so I think you have played with an elite quarterback before. He's played with some elite wide receivers. He played with Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, this guy is probably going to be the pros pro. And who does it remind you of? Terry McLaurin. That's exactly what you get from Terry McLaurin. He's like the pros pro. And I think that you are going to get another player that can come in, and I think he can be an impact player. He could, I think he could do something like Terry McLaurin, where he could instantly be a guy that is going to get these consecutive 1,000-yard receiving campaigns. And so, anyway, let me know in the comments here, do you think that the Washington Commanders should go after Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State University? I think that this guy has got a lot of juice, and he could help this football team from day one. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.